In today's video, we have a bizarre revenge plot involving betrayal, impersonation, and international intrigue. We see a case where a hitwoman was recruited who was as useless as a handbrake in a canoe. This is Curios&Spiritual. We take a deep dive into the case, the police investigation, and trial. We go to the summer of 2019, to Birmingham, Britain's second city, proud of its past because we're still living in it, and its connection to Peaky Blinders because it's all we got. Anyway, Birmingham, the backdrop to a crime story with all the makings of a gritty drama, simmering family feuds, international fugitives, and an American woman accused of trying to pull the trigger on behalf of men who saw violence as a negotiation. But before names like Amy Beatrow splashed across headlines, before Interpol red notices and arrests in distant Armenia, it all began much closer to home, in the tight-knit British-Pakistani communities of Birmingham, where old rivalries occasionally erupted into very modern violence. The roots of the affair lay in a long-standing feud between two Birmingham families, the Nazir family and the Ali family. Like all good blood rivalries, its origins are muddy. Some reports point to disputes over money, others to more personal grudges. Whatever the cause, there was a dispute which led to a punch-up at a Birmingham clothing store in 2018, which left them both injured. By 2019, the bad blood between the two factions had begun to boil over. At the centre of this particular plot was Sikandar Ali, a man in his 30s who, according to court proceedings, had been the target of multiple threats before violence came directly to his doorstep, literally. On a June day in 2019, Ali stepped out of his house in Acots Green, a typically quiet normal day. That calm was shattered when an armed individual, disguised in hijab, confronted him in broad daylight and, according to prosecutors, attempted to shoot him in the street. The only thing that prevented a killing that day, according to police, was mechanical failure. The gun had jammed. A minor miracle, or a hit gone spectacularly wrong, depending on your angle. Either way, Ali survived the immediate attempt on his life. But the violence didn't end there. Just 24 hours later, the same weapon, this time functional, was fired at Ali's home. Bullets struck the property while family members, including children, were inside. No one was injured, but the message was crystal clear. This wasn't over. It was a kind of attack that sent ripples through local community and had police scrambling to piece together who was behind it. Their investigation would soon reveal a tangled web stretching beyond Birmingham's borders and improbably across the Atlantic. Early CCTV footage and witness testimony led detectives to suspect a team operation rather than a lone gunman. In short order, two men emerged as key figures: Mohammed Nazir, then 30 years old, and Mohammed Aslam, then 56 years old, both of Birmingham. Both men would later be convicted for their roles in orchestrating the attack. Nazir and Aslam prosecutors alleged they'd been feuding with Ali and decided that negotiation through the courts or even fists was no longer sufficient. The answer, they apparently believed, lay in gunfire. But perhaps the strangest twist in this saga was the emergence of a suspect who seemed straight out of a Hollywood script: Amy Beatrow, an American woman originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, who does fashion and design. British police allege that Beatrow had flown in to do the dirty work, not a hardened gangland enforcer with a rap sheet as long as her arm, but an American citizen who, according to public records, had no known ties to UK organised crime before this. She became the prime suspect in an attempted shooting, accused of being a disguised gunwoman who botched the hit, and then returned fire at Ali's home. By the time police closed in, Beatrow was long gone. She'd left the UK shortly after the attempted murder and vanished. What followed was a transnational hunt that would take years to bear fruit. Meanwhile, back in Birmingham, the case against Nazir and Aslam gathered steam. In 2022, the pair were brought before Birmingham Crown Court. Both were convicted. Nazir was found guilty of conspiracy to murder, and Aslam for assisting an offender and conspiracy to possess a firearm. Their sentences were stiff. Nazir was handed a 30-year prison term, Aslam 15 years. In passing sentence, the judge described the crime as a carefully planned attempt at murder in broad daylight. that could have easily claimed multiple lives. But while those convictions brought partial closure, one ghost still haunted the case, Amy Betro. By then her name had become notorious in Birmingham and American crime reporting circles. She was the woman who was alleged had been hired to execute a family vendetta on British soil and then vanished. For years she eluded capture. Despite the growing media attention, reporters dug into her past in the US, uncovering little beyond the basics. Law enforcement remained tight-lipped. The trail grew cold, and yet in the background, British detectives kept her name alive on international wanted lists, waiting for the day when the fugitive might make a mistake. That mistake came in 2024, and this time, the woman at the centre of it would have to face the charges in court. Almost immediately after the attacks, Betro left the UK. The timing wasn't subtle. She boarded a flight out of Britain as police pieced together what had happened. Within days, she had crossed international borders, leaving British authorities scrambling to catch up. Detectives quickly linked her to the crime based on surveillance footage, forensics, and intelligence gathered from Nazir and Aslam's communication records. By late 2009, Betro was no longer just a suspect. She was an international fugitive. An Interpol Red Notice was issued, effectively marking her as wanted by police forces across nearly 200 countries. Her face appeared on wanted lists, and names circulated in law enforcement databases from Europe to North America. Yet despite this, Betro remained elusive. Years passed without so much as a confirmed sighting. Rumours swirled. Some claimed she'd returned quietly to the US, blending back into civilian life in Milwaukee. Others speculated she was hiding out in Eastern Europe, far from the long arm of British justice. For detectives at West Midlands Police, the case became personal. They had successfully caged the local masterminds, Nazir and Aslam, but their main suspect remained out there, free. For Sikandar Ali and his family, the situation was chilling. They lived under the shadow of the attack, knowing that while some perpetrators were jailed, the alleged shooter was still missing. Meanwhile, in courtrooms back in the UK, Nazir and Aslam's trials unfolded. Their defence teams painted a picture of tangled family disputes, but the prosecution made it clear this was attempted murder, pure and simple. The gun, the disguise, the escape, it all pointed to a coordinated conspiracy to kill. Judge Melbourne Inman, King's Counsel, minced no words when handing down the sentences. He condemned the pair for endangering not only just the intended target, but the wider public. Nazir's 30-year sentence reflected the gravity of the crime. Aslam's 15-year sentence marked him as a crucial accomplice. But even as the British justice system claimed it was partial victory, the shadow of Betro loomed large. Then in 2024 came the break police had been waiting for. Word filtered through Interpol channels that an American woman matching Betro's description had been detained in Armenia. It was a twist no one predicted. Armenia, a landlocked country better known for its ancient monasteries than its role in international manhunts, had become the hiding place of a woman wanted in connection with a shooting half a world away. According to reports, Betro had been living quietly under the radar. Details about how she was tracked remain classified, but British officials confirmed her arrest in collaboration with Armenian authorities. The news triggered a media frenzy. UK papers resurrected the case, splashing Betro's name across the headlines once more. For West Midlands Police, the arrest was a long-awaited win. Detective Superintendent Jim Munro confirmed that the extradition proceedings were underway to bring Betro back to the UK to face charges. He praised the persistence of his officers and the cooperation between international law enforcement agencies. But the arrest had also raised questions. Why Armenia? Had Betro been aided in her flight? Was there a larger network behind her escape? Or had she managed to stay off the radar using old-fashioned low-tech methods, cash, burner phones, and constant movement? So far, no one knows for sure. Both UK and Armenian authorities have kept details of her movements and capture under tight wraps. What is clear, though, that it's a long arm of justice finally caught up with Betro. Facing extradition, she would soon have to answer to British courts. She is expected to face charges including attempted murder, conspiracy to murder, and possession of a firearm with intent to endanger life. This was no glamorous fugitive capture of some Mediterranean villa or Caribbean hideout. Instead, it was Armenia, a country of craggy mountains and stubborn politics, where Bitro's luck finally ran out. British authorities and Interpol had maintained their quiet patience for years. Extradition is a waiting game. When confirmation of arrest landed in late 2024, it was received less with fanfare than with grim, quiet satisfaction. Bitro is facing some very serious charges: attempted murder, conspiracy to murder, possession of a firearm with intent to endanger life. Bitro had every incentive to fight extradition tooth and nail, and fight she did. Initial reports from Armenian media suggested Bitro had hired local legal representation to oppose her removal to the UK, citing concerns about her treatment and the fairness of proceedings. Whether these concerns were heartfelt or simply standard fugitive delay tactics remains a matter of debate, best left to future courtrooms. The irony wasn't lost on many observers. Amy Bitro, accused of attempting to shoot a man in cold blood while disguised in religious garb, was now appealing for due process and human rights protections. Meanwhile, British prosecutors prepared for what would be a complex case, if and when Bitro touched down on UK soil. Even more bizarre were the lingering questions about how Bitro became involved in the first place. Bitro was extradited to the UK and arrived in Gatwick Airport in January 2025, where she was taken into custody. Upon her arrival in the UK, Bitro was charged with 3 offences: conspiracy to murder, possession of a firearm with intent to cause fear and violence, and the importation of ammunition into the UK. She appeared before Birmingham Magistrates Court on January 17, 2025, where she confirmed her identity and was remanded into custody. On February 14, 2025, Bitro appeared from video link from HMP Newhall at Birmingham Crown Court. During the 12-minute hearing, she pleaded not guilty to all charges. Judge Andrew Smith, King's Counsel, scheduled a pre-trial review for April 3, 2025 and set a provisional trial date for July 21, 2025. As of May, Amy Bitro remains in custody, awaiting her trial. Bitro spoke only to confirm her name and date of birth, and gave her home address as a district on the outskirts of Armenia's capital. She thanked the judge after she was remanded into custody. During the case, the judge told her, "You are charged with 3 offences: a conspiracy to murder, a possession of a firearm with intent, and an offence relating to the unlawful importation of ammunition. The first 2 of those offences are so serious they can only be dealt with at Crown Court, which is scheduled to commence on July 21, 2025. The case continues to attract attention due to its complex international elements and the serious nature of the charges involved." Hey, I know what you're thinking before you're even saying it. Hey, what the hell's going on? Only half a case. I'll do an update when this case comes to trial, but every time they set a date it gets pushed back, so I'm rolling with it. But I ain't being funny. I've been sitting on this for ages and I want to cover other cases. But let's recap quickly. Prior to Bitro's extradition, her alleged co-conspirators, Mohammed Nazir and Mohammed Aslam, were tried and convicted for their roles in the plot in November 2024. It's a case that's going to prove very interesting, and I'm sure it'll have more questions than it will answers. But until then, she remained what the law insists: innocent until proven guilty.